Hello, Nishan and Tevfik. Hope I'm saying that correctly. Just wait a minute and see if anybody else joins, and then I'll jump on in. Hey, Jonathan, other Jonathan. All right, so I'll get started here. This is the first official live tool building session for the AI SEO Academy. A couple more people might join as we get going, and then for those of you in here, if you have questions, you can type them into the chat and then we'll jam on those questions. The chat box is in the little bottom right next to the list of people. So if you're wondering how to join these, if you're in the AI SEO Academy, just go calendar and then you can find them in here and just sign up for them. They're currently a Google Meet. I like Google Meets. I might switch it to Zoom later. We'll see. But today, basically, my goal is to build an AI SEO tool on the fly with you guys watching. So that should be interesting. I've never tried to do this before. It's kind of a crazy idea, but the tool that I want to build is going to be a custom GPT. And then we're going to see if we can turn it into a Moonlit tool. But basically I want to start off with something simple like a GPT and show you guys the process of how you can create something from scratch. And I've done very little like preparation in advance on purpose because I want you guys to see how easy it is to build tools from scratch. I think a lot of people think that it's like really complicated to create the AI tools that I use on a daily basis. But a lot of them are actually pretty easy to make. So I'll get into those. But basically the, the GPT that I'm going to make is going to be a comparison content generator. So if you create content, a lot of the time you're going to end up with a type of keyword that is like this thing versus that thing. So it would be in my example, I've got a couple here. I've got remote work versus hybrid work, co-working space versus home office, flexible schedule versus fixed schedule. So those are all examples for remote work, which is a site that I work on. But basically, you could take that idea and apply it for literally any website or industry, and you're going to get content opportunities that have the this versus that comparison. So I'm going to show you guys how to create a piece of content or create a GPT that can create a piece of content specific to comparisons. So the first thing that I'm going to do is hop into ChatGPT, and you'll need GPT Plus if you want to make custom GPTs. So you need like a or Pro or Plus, I forget what it's called, but you need the paid version of it. And to create a GPT, you just go explore GPTs and then you click create. And if you're looking for the GPTs I've made in the past, you can just search my name. I've got a bunch of them and they all do different things. So you can find them and play around with them. But you go create a GPT here, and then you're just going to give it a name. So I'm going to call it comparison content writer. The description will do creates comparison content following a template. And for the instructions, I'm going to type this out as I go. But basically, what we want to do is create a GPT that follows a specific content template. So for comparisons, it's going to follow a pretty specific structure. And we'll look at a couple. I'll grab one of my keywords here. So whatever like industry you're in, you're going to want to look at a few examples. Here's one here, hybrid versus remote. And they're all going to have like a similar structure. Like they'll have an introduction, they'll have a quick answer, and then they'll break it down into like more specific examples and then go into like the details and then maybe have some call to actions or FAQs or conclusions or things like that. So the first instruction we'll do is you are a content generator that creates comparison content. So that's kind of like the initial context. Doesn't have to be too intense. And then for the instructions, we'll do output complete content written in Markdown format. And then for the structure, we'll do an instruction that says follow this exact structure for the content. And then we'll type it out. So the first thing that we're going to need is a heading, and we'll do an H1 and we'll say X keyword 1 verse keyword 2. And then probably some additional words that'll be in there as well. And then for the intro, we will do introduction that explains why these two things are different and explain the grammar, my typing, explain how this guide will walk the reader through the differences. So keyword H1 is keyword 1 versus keyword 2 and some additional words there. And then for the intro, create an introduction that explains why these two things are different. And then we will do H2. And for Markdown, you do like one, what are these things called? One hashtag for an H1, two hashtags for an H2, three hashtags for an H3. So we'll just copy this and I'll add a bit of context here. Direct answer. And then we will say, add a paragraph here that directly answers the main question and explains the key differences between keyword 1 and keyword 2. It should start with the main difference between, this is a format that I like to do. I actually got that from Steve Toth. Makes a lot of good SEO guides as well. The main difference between X and Y is Z. That's like the perfect answer format, and you'll get a lot of featured snippets if you follow a structure like that. And then add a second paragraph that explains the nuances between the direct answer and segue. I don't know how to spell that. Segue into the next sections covering nuanced answers. Right, and then we're going to break it down to explain one thing versus the other. That's usually how these go. So it'll go introduction, direct answer. A lot of people miss the direct answer and they miss out on the featured snippet opportunity. And then they usually go into direct details about thing 1 and thing 2. So let's go keyword 1, details. Explain keyword 1 in detail, what it is, why it matters, key differentiators, anything else relevant to the goals of the guide. And then we'll do the same for keyword 2 details. So now you've got the breakdown between keyword 1 and keyword 2. You can open this up. That's a little better. So here's our prompt so far. And then we're going to cover additional details. Explain any additional nuances needed to further understand the concept and differences between the two keywords being compared. Repeat as needed. Aim for a max of 3 extra sections. And I'm going to do an H3. You can do an H2 or whatever you want to do. And then we're going to do a conclusion. I'll add an extra hashtag there. Conclusion, keyword 1 versus keyword 2. She'll add a little specifier to not just call it conclusion, keyword 1 versus 2. Rename this to not include the word conclusion. All right. And then add saying paragraph to wrap up the article and recap the main learnings. Include a call to action to subscribe to the newsletter. So in your example, if you were building something like this, you would be a little bit more specific. So you would say to subscribe to my newsletter about remote work or whatever your call to action is. Maybe it's to book an appointment or something like that. So this is our starting prompt, and we're just going to add a little bit more to it before we test it out for the first run. We'll add, because GPTs have search functionalities, so they can do web searches and read pages before doing them. So for the web search, we're going to do, before creating the article, browse the web and research a few pages on this topic to help fill in the details. So now we've got a little instruction to browse the web. And let's see here. We'll also add the user instructions. The user will provide a keyword, which will typically look like X versus Y. And your job is to create comparison content for the user. All right. So this would be the basic structure of the prompt. And you could get more detailed, like specify writing style and tone of voice and things like that. But the idea behind this is that you can create a structure that it'll follow every time. So if you're doing a lot of like this versus that keyword posts, then you can turn it into a GPT that can basically build it out for you really quickly and follow the same structure every time. So I'll close this. Now we got our prompt in there for a conversation starter. We'll just do provide an X versus Y keyword. And then if you click the plus button here, it'll actually just use Dolly to generate an image that'll be somewhat relevant to the title of the GPT. I'm not too picky about the pictures, but try it out. I'm going to turn off DAL-E, but I'm going to keep web search. And then we're going to give it a keyword, take it for a spin and see how it works. It's just loading. Okay. Paste that in and we'll see if it does what we want it to do on the first try. All right. So this is basically the structure we were going for. Hybrid work details, making the right choice for your organization. So it does the intro, the direct answer, then details on remote work, details on hybrid work. Here's additional considerations, and then the conclusion. So that's not too bad. That's a good starting point. And what I typically do at this point is do a bunch of back and forth between the revisions and the testing until I get it the way that I like it. So I'll do a couple of revisions here to show you how that works. But something that I noticed was that the details section, what was literally called details. So I'm going to specify to change that. Change this to a more specific heading related to the keyword. Same for keyword 2 details. And then additional details, we'll do that. And then another thing I noticed is that it broke out each additional detail as bullet points. And I was actually hoping it would do separate sections for them. So I'll be more specific there. Repeat the H3 and paragraph structure here 3 times to create extra sections. And then we'll try that again, see how it turns out. Give it the keyword again. Here's the direct answer we like. The main difference is this between X and Y is Z. And here's the revised sections, exploring hybrid work, understanding remote work, and it talks about advantages and challenges. I like that. And then 3 additional sections, which I specified. So effective communication strategies, maintaining company culture, evaluating performance, and then determining the best fit for your organization. So that's not too bad. That's a good starting structure. And again, you could customize this a little bit more. For example, maybe you don't actually want it to write the content and you just want it to give a content brief. You could just add something like that as well. So once you've created a GPT that you like and you're happy with it, you basically just go create, and then you can set your sharing settings. So if you want it to just be something only you use and see, you do only me. You can do anyone with the link so that you can share it with team members or coworkers, or you can even set it to the GPT store so that anybody can see it. I'll just do that. Save it. Takes a minute. There we go. And then you go view GPT. And now you've got your comparison content writer GPT up and running. And I'll try a different keyword. I've got a couple other ones here. Co-working space versus home office. We'll try that one. That's pretty cool. It even gives links to the websites that it browsed to show you where it found the information. So you could kind of expand on them if you needed to. You could prompt it afterwards. So when you're creating these, you can keep prompting just like you're talking to ChatGPT. But that's basically how you make a GPT. Now I'm going to try and do something even crazier, which is move this GPT into Moonlit. And the idea here is that if you can recreate it into a no-code builder like this one, then you can do it as a bulk run. So you could upload a whole list of keywords and just do this whole thing at scale for like your entire list of keywords. So here's an example. This was like a bunch of content that I recently generated following a similar process. So if you can build a GPT, you can build a custom content writer pretty easily. It's very similar. And I'll show you how the one translates to the other. So I'm going into Moonlit platform here. It's a free no code drag and drop builder. You get 300 free credits to try it out. And after that, you have to get a paid plan. But I'll go create a new app, blank app, and we'll call it the comparison content writer. Let's put testing for the description. Then for the input, we're going to do a keyword, and I'll just give that label a nice name too. So X versus Y keyword. And that's the only input that we're actually going to need for this app. And then for the functions, because ChatGPT can't browse the web through the API, that's important to keep in mind when you're doing these, is we are going to use a different model. We're going to do a Google search function. I'm going to try that first. Google search. Where is it? Oh, here it is. All right. So this is a custom Google search function. It'll basically replicate ChatGPT functionality. And then we just need to pass it the keyword. So X versus Y keyword, web search. One of the nice advantages of doing it through a tool is you can specify the country. So I'm pretty sure ChatGPT will only browse like North America results. So if you want to get it in another country, a tool can do that. Like you could do a Germany specific web search or something like that. Number of results, we'll do 5 max to see how that goes. And then for the chat model, where'd my chat models go? I'm just going to reload my screen real quick here. It's kind of bugging out on me. There we go. So we'll add a chat model and then we'll pass the Google search results to the chat model. Let's call it write content or something. And we'll change the model to Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So when you use a tool builder, you can use different models. So if you don't like GPT 4.0 and you think Sonnet makes better content, you can do that. And then we'll pass the Google search results to Sonnet, but we'll also grab the prompt that we got here. So I'm going to go into edit GPT. I'm just going to copy the prompt over to the Moonlit tool. So same prompt, it's just copy pasted. And then for the system message, I will just enter the search results here. There's their Google search, temperature and message history and all that other stuff. I'll just leave it alone. And then for the text output, then we just need to pass the written content into a text output so that we can see it, name it written content or something like that. And then we can test it out. So I'll grab my keyword again, remote work versus hybrid, and let's see how it does. See how it goes. So now it's doing its Google search. This might take a minute. Now it's writing the content. All right. And here's our written content. Something I'm noticing because it's using Claude is I think the content is a little more detailed. Core distinction, the main difference, balancing office and remote environments, embracing a fully distributed workforce. Here's our H3s to expand on it. And there's our conclusion. I think that works a little better than the chat that GPT did. And also with Moonlit, if you hit edit with AI, you can kind of talk to it and edit the document. So if you don't like it in today's rapidly evolving workplace landscape, that seems like a pretty AI intro. You just remove that. So like edit that. And then you can prompt it. You can pick your models. It has GPT 4.0 mini and 4.0. So if you prompt it to make any changes, you just got to keep in mind that it'll do that, but with a different model that you chose. I'm not going to actually do it, but there we go. And then to share it. So if you, same thing, like you can set it to private or public and clonable. So I'll set mine to public and clonable. And then you can copy the link and I'll paste this link into a new tab here so you can see it. But this is what it will look like if you share it with someone and then they can hit clone and edit if you've enabled that, or they can just run it and try it out for themselves. And then you could even embed it on a website. So you can just copy and paste this, paste it in somewhere, or you can connect to it through the API if you're a fancy developer. But that's basically all you need to do to create a comparison content writer. With Moonlit, you can also add extra steps. Like there's a bunch of other functions. Like you could ask it to do keyword research and find trending keywords or things like that about the topic, scrape specific web pages or run other apps, process data, custom Python, things like that. Once you have your content writer set up the way you like, you can do a bulk run and it's really easy to do. So this will be the example for if you want to do a whole list of keywords at the same time. And we'll pick our new app here and then we just pick the output. And when you create a bulk run, you can upload a file. So if you have a list of keywords or something and you want to upload that data, you can do that right here. But by default, it'll just be blank and you can type in your keywords or whatever your inputs are. So here's my first keyword, here's my second one, and here's the third one. And then we just hit start job. So if you were doing this at scale, you might have more than 3 examples. Maybe you'd have like 40 or something. But then you just hit start job and it'll do the same thing except in bulk for the whole list that you have. And you don't even have to stay and watch it. Like you can actually just close it and you'll get an email when it's done. So I do that when I'm generating like 40 articles at the same time. I'll just close it and it'll give me an email when it's done and I just come back later. But I'm hoping to see these pop up in real time. So here's the first one. Not too bad. And same thing, you can edit and talk to it as you're working on it. And here's the second one on home office versus co-working space. Close that. And here's the third one. Not too bad. So that's pretty cool. Within 30 minutes, I built a custom GPT that writes a specific piece of content. Now, I would probably spend more than 30 minutes on it if I was not doing this on a live call. I'd probably go back and forth a little more and refine the prompts and get them the way I like. But then I turned it into a Moonlit tool in a couple of clicks. And then I set up a bulk run to run it at scale. So if I had a whole list of comparison keywords, I could get them all done and make sure they follow the same structured format, which works really good if you're doing like programmatic SEO things. But that's how you do it. That's how it's done. We're only 30 minutes in, but that's pretty much the learning for today. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to, I think I can unmute you guys if you want to talk, but you can put your questions in the chat if you have any, or I'm also just going to hit the unmute button and see what happens. I don't know if I can unmute people. No, I can't unmute you guys. All right. So if you guys don't have any questions, we'll wrap up and that'll be it for today. I'll share this recording as well in the AI SEO Academy. And then for you guys or the people watching, I already talked to Jonathan, but you can book a call with me and I can point you in the right direction of various tools and give you some guidance on like how to get started with AI. So if you're looking for someone to just help you out and get started and point you in the right direction, all you have to do is go into the AI SEO Academy and click on this, book your free onboarding call, and then we'll get on a meeting like this one and just go through some stuff. But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks, guys.